Fathers, how did your child change your life forever? My daughter asked me to visit a prison when she was 12, and it destroyed my perfect image. I'm a firefighter, been doing it for 15 years. Clean record, community hero, all that stuff. My wife died when Casey was 5. It was just me and her. She thought I was Superman or something, always bragging to her friends about her firefighter dad who saves people. I loved that she saw me that way. One Tuesday, Casey came home from school. Quiet. Normally, she'd tell me everything about her day while I made dinner. That night, she just picked out her food and went to her room early. The next morning, she asked if we could visit a prison that weekend. I almost choked on my coffee. Turns out her classmate, Miguel, had been crying during their Father's Day project at school. His dad was locked up for armed robbery. Casey wanted to visit him with Miguel so he wouldn't feel alone. My heart broke for the kid, but I didn't want my 12-year-old daughter in a prison. After thinking about it, I agreed, but said I'd come. 2. What I didn't expect was meeting someone who knew me. When we got to the visiting room, Miguel's dad, Luis, looked right at me and froze. I felt my stomach drop. He knew me from county jail. 20 years ago, when I was 19, I beat up some guy who attacked my little sister. Got charged with assault, spent 2 years locked up. My dad was a cop, pulled strings, got me early parole. My record got sealed when I became a firefighter. Nobody knew. Not my wife before she died. Not Casey, not anyone. Louise kept staring at me during the visit. Casey noticed something was off, but didn't say anything. Miguel seemed happy to have visitors, and Louise was actually a decent guy trying to turn his life around. On the drive home, Casey asked why. I looked so nervous. I lied and said prisons just made me uncomfortable. That night, I couldn't sleep. What if Louise said something next time? What if other inmates recognized me? What if Casey found out Hero Dad was actually an ex-con? The next weekend, Casey asked if we could visit again. Miguel had been happier at school all week. I panicked but couldn't say no without explaining why. During the second visit, Louise pulled me aside when Casey was talking to Miguel about school. Stuffy said he wouldn't say anything, but asked why I was there. I told him about Casey wanting to help Miguel. He nodded and said my daughter had a good heart. Then he said something that hit me hard. He said, most kids with dads inside don't get visitors, especially not from firefighters and their daughters. It meant everything to Miguel. That night, Casey asked if we could make it a regular thing. She'd noticed how happy Miguel got when we came. I realized I had 2 choices. Keep lying and risk her finding out eventually, or tell her the truth and risk losing the way she looked at me. I chose the truth. After dinner, I sat her down and told her everything about what I did. Why I did it, the time I served, how my dad helped me start over. She listened without interrupting. No crying, no yelling, just listening. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "You were protecting your sister. That's what heroes do." Then she hugged me and said, "You were always a hero. You just became one earlier than I thought." I almost lost it right there. We kept visiting Miguel and Louise every other weekend. After a few months, I started talking to other inmates who barely got visitors. Casey would bring homework to help kids with their letters to their dads inside. 6 months later, the prison asked if I'd speak at their re-entry program about second chances. It all started on an ordinary Tuesday, or so I thought. I'm a firefighter, a calling I've had for 15 years now. Life of public service, risk, and respect. I've always been proud of my clean record, my role as a guardian of my community. After my wife passed away when Casey was just 5, it became just the 2 of us. She looked up to me like I was some kind of superhero, and in many ways, I tried to be. To her friends, I was the firefighter dad who saved lives, a strong man who never backed down. But that image was fragile. A carefully maintained illusion. One day, after school, Casey came home unusually silent. The bubbly girl who loved to recount every detail of her day barely touched her food and disappeared early to her room. My gut twisted with worry. That next morning, she surprised me with a request that shattered my carefully built world. "Can we visit a prison this weekend?" I nearly choked on my coffee. Turns out, her classmate Miguel's dad was locked up for armed robbery. Miguel cried during their Father's Day project at school, feeling alone and forgotten. Casey, at just 12 years old, wanted to stand by him to remind Miguel he wasn't totally abandoned. I was torn. A prison visit with a 12-year-old. The thought terrified me, but seeing Casey's earnestness, I said yes. On one condition, I come too. When we got there, something unexpected happened. Miguel's dad, Luis, recognized me. His eyes locked onto mine with shock, maybe disbelief. Inside, my heart sank. Luis had no idea about the firefighter standing beside my daughter was the same kid who'd served 2 years in county jail decades ago. I was 19 then. I got into a fight defending my little sister from an attacker charged with assault. Sentenced to prison time. My dad was a cop, worked some strings, and I was released early on parole. My record was sealed the day I became a firefighter. No one, not my late wife, no one knew. During that visit, Louis stared at me suspiciously. Casey noticed, but said nothing. Miguel was just happy to have visitors. That night, I lay awake, my mind racing. What if word got out? What if Casey saw me differently? The hero dad was really an ex-con. Under the surface, hiding a history of pain and second chances. Then came the next weekend. Casey wanted to go again. I panicked, but how could I say no? At the prison, Luis pulled me aside while Casey and Miguel talked about school. "I won't say anything," he whispered, "but why are you here?" I told him about Casey's kindness. Her heart. He nodded, saying something I'll never forget. Most kids with dads inside don't get visitors, especially not from firefighters and their daughters. Those words hit me hard. It meant more than 1,000 accolades. Back home, Casey surprised me again. "Can we make this a regular thing?" she asked, watching Miguel's happiness grow with each visit. I realized 2 things. I couldn't keep hiding my past, and Casey deserved the full truth. So that evening, after dinner, I sat her down and told her everything, every harsh detail and every lesson. She listened. No tears, no anger, just quiet understanding. Finally, she looked at me and said, "You were protecting your sister. That's what heroes do." Then she hugged me tightly. I almost lost it right then. Since then, visiting Miguel and Luis became our ritual every other weekend. Casey brought homework and letters to help the kids whose dads rarely got visitors. She reached out with compassion that belied her youth. Months passed. My story traveled inside those prison walls. Slowly, I became more than just a firefighter. They asked me to speak at the prison's re-entry program on second chances, to inspire others, just as I had been given a chance before. Fatherhood changed me forever. It turned my fears into courage, my secrets into strength, and a past I once hid into a beacon of hope. Casey's heart opened a door I never thought I'd face, and through that door I found redemption, healing, and a love deeper than any I had known. Story 2. At my cousin's birthday dinner, my brother smirked. "Where's your +1? "Oh, that's right. No one would come with you." My parents laughed. I smiled and said, "Where's your rent money?" "Oh, that's right. It comes from me." Until today, I quietly updated my app, removed my contribution to his Lisa's account, and paused the shared utilities card by dessert. He had vanished to take care of something urgent. I've always hated family dinners. Not because I don't like my family, Though, if we're being honest, like is a strong word, but because they tend to bring out the worst in people. Or maybe they just strip away the polite veneer and show you what's been lurking underneath all along. Either way, I wasn't expecting my cousin Mia's birthday to be any different. The restaurant was one of those dimly lit Italian places with exposed brick and overpriced wine. The kind where you can practically hear your bank account weeping every time someone orders another bottle. I showed up in a decent button-down and jeans, gift bag in hand, ready to smile, nod, and survive the night without starting World War II at the dinner table. Then my brother opened his mouth. He was already leaning back in his chair, arms slung casually over the backrest like he owned the place. When I took my seat across from him, that smug little half-smile was plastered on his face before I'd even said hello. I should have known. So, he said loudly enough for the whole table to hear, "Where's your +1? Oh, that's right. No one would come with you." There it was. No build-up, no context, just a clean surgical strike aimed right at my dignity. My parents chuckled. My dad even shook his head like he'd just heard the punchline to the world's funniest joke. I could feel a few cousins glance my way, some pretending not to hear, others smirking into their wine glasses. I smiled back, but not the tight, polite kind of smile. No, this one was slow, deliberate. The kind that says, you just set yourself on fire and don't even know it yet. "Where's your rent money?" I asked, tilting my head slightly. "Oh, that's right. It comes from me until today." The smile slid right off his face. My parents froze, still holding their wine glasses mid-air. Raised my voice. Didn't make a scene. I just reached for my phone, unlocked it with a flick of my thumb, and quietly pulled up my banking app. 2 taps later, I'd removed my monthly contribution from his lease account. Another few swipes and the shared utilities card, also in my name, was paused. "Done," I said lightly, setting my phone face down on the table. The silence was delicious. My brother's jaw tightened, but he tried to play it off, muttering something about me being overly dramatic. Still, his hand went to his pocket, pulling out his own phone like, maybe, just maybe, he was realizing I wasn't bluffing. By the time dessert rolled around, he'd vanished entirely, claiming he had to take care of something urgent. I didn't need to guess what that was. I sipped my coffee, savoring the first peaceful bite of tiramisu I'd had at a family dinner in years. If you really want to understand why that one sentence at the dinner table hit like a grenade, you need the backstory. Because this didn't start at my cousin's birthday. This started the day I agreed to help my brother get back on his feet. Translation: become his personal ATM. 2 years ago, Brian was in between jobs again. That's his favorite phrase. It makes it sound like he's a high executive deciding which Fortune 500 company to bless with his talent. Not a guy who quits as soon as the job involves, working. He showed up at my apartment with a grocery bag of clothes, a sad plant, and the kind of look stray dogs have right before you open the door. "I just need a little help," he said. "First month's rent, maybe utilities. I've got some interviews lined up." Our mom added, "You know how hard it's been for him since the breakup." Dad chimed in, "Family looks after family. You're doing well. You can afford it." I had a good job, savings, and apparently a big red gullible stamp on my forehead. So, I agreed. First month's rent turned into 3. Utilities, just for now, became my card on file for internet, water, electricity, all set to autopay because Brian is bad with due dates. Every time I hinted at stopping, there was a new story. The commission checks late. My car needed new tires. My boss messed up payroll. My parents always the Greek chorus of guilt. He's trying his best. You can't just abandon him. You're lucky you don't have kids. You don't understand real stress. Apparently, My stress didn't count. At first, I didn't pay attention to the bills. I trusted that utilities meant utilities. Then I noticed the numbers creeping up. The electric bill doubled. Internet got upgraded to some Ultramax gamer speed. Package, Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO, Amazon Prime, all in my name. One month, I saw a $420 charge on the shared utilities. Card labeled VIP table. I called Brian. That's my landlord's payment platform. Your landlord's name is VIP table. Don't be judgmental. It wasn't just the money, it was the constant jabs. At family gatherings, Brian turned my bank account into a punchline. Don't make him mad or he'll send you an invoice. Careful, I might have to take out a loan from my personal banker, aka my sibling. Mom laughed. Dad winked. I sat there, grinding my teeth. The real shift happened when I got an email from his building manager addressed to me because I was listed as the secondary contact. Notice late rent. I called Brian. It's a mistake, he said immediately. Really? Because my bank shows the transfer. Went through and then straight out to someone named Atji Nanak. Don't be classist. I brought the letter to Sunday lunch at my parents'. I set it in the middle of the table like evidence in a trial. Dad frowned. Why would you humiliate your brother like this? Humiliate. He's one missed payment away from eviction. He's figuring things out. Mom said he's 35. How much longer does he get to figure things out? That's when Brian strolled in wearing a designer jacket I definitely paid for at Christmas and said, "You're just mad because you're single and have nothing better to spend your money on." And something in mesnopped. 2 weeks, I said. Then I'm done. Rent, utilities, everything. They all stared like I'd announced I was moving to Mars. Mom, you wouldn't. Me, watch me. For the next 14 days, my phone was a battlefield. Brian sent guilt texts. Mom sent emotional voice notes about families sticking together. Dad sent lecture-length messages about loyalty. I ignored them all. I was tired of until I'll help, until you get your commission. I'll pay until you stabilize. I'll cover it until you learn. Until is how you keep someone on a leash and make them believe it's a lifeline. When Mia's birthday rolled around, I'd already decided this was my cutoff. No more transfers, no more. Utilities, no more being the family's emergency fund. I told myself I'd keep it civil. Smile, give me a her gift. Avoid Brian, but families like mine don't wait for the right moment. They create it. We were barely through appetizers when Brian leaned back in his chair, smirk in place, and asked, "So, where's your +1? Oh, that's right, no one would come with you." Mom laughed. Dad chuckled. It was the same script we'd been running for years, except this time I wasn't reading my lines. I smiled, slow, deliberate. "Where's your rent money?" "Oh, that's right. That comes from me until today." Silence. Utter beautiful silence. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and with a few taps, rent transfer canceled. Utilities card paused. Brian's face drained of color. "You can't do that," he said. Half whisper, half yell. "I just did," I said, tucking my phone away. Mom started to speak, but I held up my hand. "For 2 years, I've paid your bills so you could find yourself. You didn't find yourself. You found ways to spend more of my money. Congratulations." "That's over." Brian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and froze. I knew exactly what it said. Late payment by dessert, he was gone. Muttering about something urgent as he bolted for the door. I sat back, sipped my coffee, and for the first time in years, felt like I could actually taste it. I didn't expect Brian to resurface so quickly. Honestly, I thought he'd hide for a week, spinning a soba story about how the landlord messed up the system. But no. Less than 48 hours after Mia's birthday dinner, my phone started blowing up. Brian, we need to talk. Mom, your brother is in crisis. Please be kind, Dad. This isn't how family treats each other. I ignored them all. By Monday evening, I was home from work halfway through reheating pasta when there was a knock at my door. Not just a knock, a police battering ram knock. I opened the door to find Brian standing there, face flushed, jaw tight. Mom was right. Behind him, arms crossed, Dad hovering in the background like a bouncer for a fight no one asked for. We're not doing this over text, Brian said, brushing past me into my living room like he still lived there. Correction, I said, shutting the door. We're not doing this at all. Mom jumped in first. Do you realize what you've done? He's late on rent. They're threatening eviction. I realize exactly what I've done, I said. I stopped paying for his life so I could start living mine. Dad's voice dropped into that low, disappointed tone I'd been hearing since I was 12. You've always been selfish. We didn't raise you to turn your back on family. No, I shot back. You raised me to fund family. There's a difference. Brian paced like a caged animal. You made me look like a joke in front of everyone. You made yourself look like a joke. I said I just stopped financing the punchline. That's when he lost it. You think you're better than me? Because you have money. Newsflash. You're a lonely, miserable control freak. No one wants to be around you unless you're paying for something. My ears rang. For a second, I thought I might actually laugh. You're right, I said finally. I am miserable. I'm miserable because for the last 2 years, I've been bankrolling someone who insults me to my face and then asks for more. And you know what? You just fixed that problem. Mom stepped between us. This is getting out of hand. We can work something out. Maybe you just cover the next 2 months until Brian. No, my voice was steady. Final. There is no next 2 months. There is no until. There is no more rent. No more utilities. No more pretending this is helping him. You've mistaken enabling for love, and I'm done playing along. Brian scoffed. You're acting like I'm some freeloader. I've been looking for work. I walked to my desk, pulled out a folder, and dropped it on the coffee table. Inside, printed bank statements, utility bills, and screenshots of charges from the shared card. Here's rent for 18 months straight. All mine. Here's internet at $140 a month because apparently you need NASA-level speed to watch TikToks. Here's $420 at a club. $1.89 protein powder. $65 for concert tickets. Tell me which part of this was for basic living expenses. He didn't even look at the papers. You're obsessive. Who keeps track of all that? People who pay the bills, I said. Mom's voice cracked. Honey, we can't just let him end up on the street. Then you take him in, I said. Let him live in your spare room. We don't have the space, Dad said. I leaned forward. Funny, neither do I. The difference is you've never been willing to give up your comfort for his mistakes. You just expect me to give up mine. Silence. Heavy. The kind you can feel pressing into your skin. Brian grabbed the folder, shoved it back toward me. You're unbelievable. You think cutting me off makes you some kind of hero? You're going to regret this when no one's around to help you. I stood, and you're going to regret not learning how to help yourself. He glared at me for a long second, then stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. Mom trailed after him, muttering about me being cold-hearted. Dad lingered a moment longer. You'll understand one day, he said. I already do, I replied. That's why I'm stopping now. The next day, I got a text from my cousin, Mia. What did you say to Brian? He's been calling everyone saying you ruined his life. I didn't respond because here's the thing. You can't ruin a life someone's not even trying to build. For the first time in years, my accounts felt like mine. My paycheck wasn't earmarked for someone else's rent. My credit card balance was lower than my patience threshold. I slept through the night without waking up to transfer money before a late fee hit. Brian would survive, or he wouldn't. Either way, it wasn't my emergency anymore. And in that moment, I realized the real breaking point wasn't when I said no. It was when I finally believed I had the right to. The first morning after the blow-up felt suspiciously light, like someone had lifted a barbell off my chest while I slept. No 6:58 a.m. panic check of my banking app. No sprint to cover a fee. I made coffee and actually tasted it. It tasted like something I hadn't felt in years. By noon, the ricochet started. Mia texted a screenshot of the family chat titled, "Family emergency," as if we were shareholders and the product was my paycheck. Mom wrote, "We need to rally around Brian in this difficult time." Dad added, "Sibling cut him off. Unacceptable." Aunt Rosa replied, "Why was sibling paying his bills in the first place?" Then a scatter of scene 12:17. For once, the silence didn't belong to me. At 2, the property manager from Brian's building called. Calm voice, kind enough. "You're listed as secondary contact. There's a past due notice." "I'm not a guarantor," I said. "Understood. If payment isn't received by Friday, we'll issue a pay or quit." "Do your job," I told her, and remove my email. A tiny pause, then a professional chuckle. Rent isn't a debate topic. Click, one rope, cut clean. That evening, Mom tried the velvet glove approach. "Honey, your brother had a panic attack. He's not like you. He's sensitive." "So am I said. "I just stopped paying for it." By Wednesday, Dad left a voicemail sharpened by performance. "If your grandmother saw this lack of loyalty," I deleted it mid-sentence. Dead relatives don't get to co-sign debt. Brian's messages oscillated between bravado and begging. "I'll be fine without you." Then they're charging a late fee. "Spot me $300. Friday, for sure." Then you're actually evil. I typed one word, "No," and felt my hand stop shaking. He pushed harder. A fraud alert popped up. Failed attempt to add an authorized user on the utilities card. 10 minutes later, new credit application denied. I'd frozen my credit the night of Mia's party because for once I trusted my instincts more than their narratives. I closed the utilities account completely, then scrubbed the little permissions I'd forgotten existed. Shared Amazon Apple purchases, Uber family. The quiet after that tasted like cold water. On Friday, the pay or quit landed on Brian's door. By sunset, he was pounding on mine. Notice in his fist, "You did this. The building did this. They want $1,840 by 5 o'clock. Sell the jacket, sell the watch. Call the friend you took to the VIP table and ask him to mentor your rent." "I'm not pawning my life," he said. "You've been pawning mine." I answered and closed the door on a sound that wasn't anger so much as the realization a key doesn't work anymore. The next morning, Mom went nuclear by text. "If he's evicted, that's on your conscience. No. If he's evicted, that's on his lease." That afternoon, an invite arrived. Family strategy dinner. Let's find a solution that works for everyone. It came with a spreadsheet emoji and my childhood sense of dread. I went anyway. You can't claim boundaries and then hide behind them like a sofa. Dad had placed cards like we were negotiating a merger. Mom wore her "I'm holding it together" smile. Brian looked wrecked and newly polite. Dad steepled his fingers. Simple bridge plan, 90 days. You cover rent while Brian transitions. He'll take over utilities. "No," I said. Mom's smile stuttered. "Sweetheart, be reasonable." "For 2 years, I've been very reasonable," I said, sliding my phone across the table. The $420 club charge. The fake landlord handle. The fraud alerts. The pay or quit. Reasonable is what got us here. A chair scraped. Mia, bless her, cleared her throat. He could sell the gaming PC, she said, softly, and the jacket and the watch. Brian recoiled. I'm not selling my watch. Then you're not serious, I said. The room adjusted to a new gravity. He sold the PC and the jacket. He borrowed the rest from a financial ninja, which is how people rebrand a shark when they like the teeth. He made rent. No thank you. Good gratitude would have felt like theft twice. Meanwhile, I started doing strange, tiny things that felt like identity. I took a ceramics class and made a lopsided bowl that looked like a planet with bad weather. I moved my phone charger to the kitchen and kept my bedroom for sleeping, not trife. I replaced the couch I'd chosen for guests who never respected it with one I chose for me. When it arrived, I sat on it and didn't feel lonely at all. People noticed. My boss said I seemed lighter. A friend from college texted, "You okay?" You're posting sunrises. I sent a photo of my ugly bowl. Practicing not saving people who aren't drowning, I wrote. Turns out I float better too. Not everyone liked the new physics. Dad tried the old sermons. Duty, loyalty, sacrifice. Words that break like old bones when you stop propping them up with cash. Mom started sending recipes at odd hours. Her Morse code for I miss you, but won't admit we were wrong. Brian kept pressing. But each push met a wall and learned nothing happened. There were losses. Sunday mornings, my fingers twitched for the app. Phantom pain where the panic used to be. Anxiety is a habit. You have to teach your body it's safe, and bodies are stubborn. Students, but there were wins I didn't expect. Aunt Rosa invited me for tea, slipped a gift card into my palm. For clay and glazes, the note read, "Don't tell your mother," she whispered, eyes bright with mischief. We laugh like thieves. 2 weeks later, I bumped into Brian outside a coffee shop. He looked scuffed, but less hollow. "I sold the watch," he said. "Like confession and dare." "Good watch," I said. "Stupid watch," he corrected. And the first honest grin I'd seen on him in years cracked his face open. I picked up shifts at the warehouse. "Steady is underrated," I said. "Don't get weird," he muttered, which in our language meant thanks. That night, Dad called. I answered. He cleared his throat. "Your mother wants you at Sunday dinner." "Next week," I said. "If it turns into a tribunal, I'm leaving." Beat. Fine. In Dad's speak, that was a millimeter of door. Mia and I went hiking instead. On the ridge, we watched the city throw on its necklace of lights. My phone buzzed with a new text. "Hey, this is Elena from Ceramics. We're doing a studio crawl Friday. Come," Mia smirked. "Who's Elena?" "Someone who didn't ask for my login," I said, promising. I went home and rinsed clay from my hands. The bowl on my counter still leaned like it was listening. I set it to dry. And opened the window. Far away, a train moaned. A dog barked. A band practiced the wrong chord with conviction. The noise of other people's lives sounded like weather now, present but not inside my house. The following first of the month arrived. Like a test, my app showed exactly one rent payment leaving mine. No mystery drafts, no last-minute saves, no internal siren. I stood there barefoot in my kitchen and let that simple number do what money rarely does. It told the truth. Here's the truth I wish someone had handed me years ago. Love without boundaries. Is debt with nicer stationery. Family is a noun until it isn't. Then it's a bill, heading your way with a due date and a smiley face. I'm done auto-paying. Brian will make it, or he won't. My parents will thaw, or they won't. I can't budget outcomes anymore. Only inputs. Mine look like this. A couch I chose. A bowl that wobbles. A phone that sleeps in the kitchen. Thursdays with Mia. A text from Alina. mornings that taste like coffee instead of panic. And if anyone needs one more sign that the ground has shifted, they can have this. When the month rolled over, the only thing I financed was my own sky. When I walked out of that restaurant, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I'd finally shut my brother down in front of everyone, but because I knew there was no going back. The group chat went silent for days. My parents didn't call. My brother sent one message, "You didn't have to do that," which I ignored. He didn't need an answer. The rent app and utilities card spoke louder than anything I could say. 2 weeks later, I got a photo from a mutual friend. My brother moving boxes into some dingy basement unit. No more leather couch. No more 70 inches TV I'd helped pay for. Just him for mismatched chairs and a mattress on the floor. I didn't laugh. I didn't feel pity either. I felt free. For the first time in years, my paycheck went entirely to my life. I booked a weekend trip. I bought real coffee instead of the cheapest instant brand. My home stayed quiet, peaceful, and mine. I learned something important that night. Sometimes you don't have to raise your voice to win. You just have to quietly pull the plug and watch the lights go.